Welcome back to Betrayed. Thank you for your loyalty. What town are you in right now? We're curious. Where do these secrets find you? Here's today's story about a cheating wife. My name is Daniel. A year ago, if someone had asked me about my marriage, I would have smiled and said it was strong. I believed in us. I trusted the foundation we had built for years. My focus was always on our future. I had worked endlessly to grow my business, expanding into new cities, making important connections, and securing financial stability for both of us. It wasn't easy. There were long nights, tiring trips, and non-stop negotiations. Some weeks I was gone for days, sometimes even longer. But every sacrifice felt worth it because I believed I was doing it for us. Or at least that's what I thought. Life has a strange way of pulling the ground out from under you just when you think everything is finally in place. The moment that broke my world didn't come with warnings. It wasn't something I expected. The truth came to me, uninvited and unforgiving, and when it did, it hit harder than I ever imagined. I remember that day clearly. I was on a business trip and things were going well. Deals were getting closed, plans were moving forward, and in my mind, I was already imagining my return home, picturing a quiet evening with my wife, Sophia. I was exhausted, but satisfied, knowing that every late night and every long hour had been spent building a better future for both of us. Then my phone rang. It was Mark, an old friend. But the moment I heard his voice, I could tell something was wrong. He hesitated. His tone was uncertain, carrying a weight that made my stomach twist. Daniel, listen. I don't know if I should even be telling you this, but I can't keep it to myself. I held my breath. I just saw Sophia. She was coming out of a hotel with another man. Silence. My mind struggled to understand the words. For a moment, I thought I misheard him. Maybe he was talking about someone else. But Mark wasn't the type of person to joke about something like this. I took pictures, Daniel. I didn't know if I should, but I had a bad feeling. I'll send them to you now. A second later, my phone buzzed. My fingers felt stiff as I opened the message. And there it was, an image that changed everything. Sophia, my wife, stepping out of a hotel. She wasn't alone. A man was right beside her. In that moment, my world didn't just crack, it collapsed. But I didn't react.
Not yet.
I didn't call her. I didn't yell. I just stared at the pictures, my mind refusing to accept what I was seeing. Daniel, are you there? Mark's voice brought me back. Yeah, I'm here, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. Man, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but you needed to know. I nodded, though he couldn't see it. He had no idea what this meant for me. No idea that everything I thought I knew had just fallen apart. And deep down, I realized something else. He was right. I did need to know. But now that I did, what was I supposed to do? I sat there, staring at my phone. The pictures were burned into my memory. My heart pounded, but my hands were ice cold. Every part of me wanted to believe there was another explanation. Some mistake. Some misunderstanding. But deep down, I already knew the truth. Sophia, the woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, had betrayed me. I could still hear Mark talking on the phone, but his words faded away. My thoughts were too loud. My feelings too tangled. When I finally found my voice, it felt strange, like I was speaking from outside my own body. Thanks, Mark. That was all I could say before I hung up. I should have been angry, furious even, but all I felt was numb. The betrayal was too big, too sudden. I couldn't even process it. So I sat there in my hotel room, staring out at the city lights, my mind racing. How long had this been happening? How many times had she done this while I was away, working for our future? Had everything between us been a lie? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent hours looking at the photos again and again, hoping to find something, some clue, some detail that might ease the pain. But the truth didn't change. It didn't bend or soften to make it easier. It stayed sharp. By morning, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to ask questions. I wasn't going to beg for answers or dig through lies. I needed to see her face when she realized I knew. I needed to see if she would still lie to me. So I booked an earlier flight home. The journey back felt unreal. I moved through the airport, through security, through the plane ride like I was sleepwalking. I barely remembered the drive from the airport to our house. All I knew was I had to get there. I didn't call. I didn't send a message. I just walked through the front door. And there she was. Sophia stood in the kitchen, humming softly, chopping vegetables like nothing had changed. Like our whole world hadn't just crumbled. She turned, her face lighting up with a smile. "You're home early," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. "How was your trip?" Her voice was light, casual. She had no idea. I forced myself to smile. Forced myself to answer normally. It was fine. I watched her closely, studying every movement, every glance. Had she been with him last night? Was she thinking about him right now, standing in our kitchen, pretending to be the loving wife? She moved around, talking about her day, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. Then, when she least expected it, I said, "Unlock your phone." The words hung in the air like a challenge. For the first time since I walked in, Sophia paused. Her smile faded. The energy in the room shifted. Her fingers twitched slightly, but she quickly recovered and let out a nervous laugh. "What? Why?" she asked, trying to sound playful. I didn't answer. I just held out my hand. I was calm, too calm. And she sensed it. The moment stretched between us, heavy with tension. Then I saw it. The flicker of fear in her eyes. She knew. And she knew I knew. The kitchen was silent. Only the fridge's soft hum and the ticking of the clock could be heard. Sophia stood frozen, her eyes moving between me and the phone in my hand. The fake smile she had tried to wear was slipping. And behind it, panic. "Why are you acting like this?" she asked, trying to laugh again. "Do you seriously not trust me after all these years?" I still didn't say a word. I simply held her phone between us, my fingers tightening slightly around it. "Unlock it." She crossed her arms over her chest in a weak attempt at defiance. "This is ridiculous, Daniel." I remained silent. She shifted uncomfortably, swallowing hard. I could see her mind racing, scrambling for an excuse, a distraction, anything to steer the conversation away from where it was headed. "What's gotten into you? Why are you even asking me this?" I took a slow breath, keeping my voice calm and steady. "Because I need to see it with my own eyes." Her fingers twitched. Her breath hitched, just barely. And in that moment I knew. If she had nothing to hide, she would have unlocked it without hesitation. But she didn't. She stalled. She tried to flip the conversation on me, make me look like the unreasonable one. I stepped closer, holding the phone up between us. My voice dropped to a low, steady tone. "Sophia, unlock the phone. Now." Her face drained of color. For a long moment, she just stood there, frozen, weighing her options. Then, with a trembling hand, she reached out and took the phone from me. Her fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating for a second too long before she finally typed in the code. The screen unlocked. And that was all it took. The first thing I saw was a string of unread messages. Some were from a saved contact. Others came from an unknown number. My chest tightened. I tapped one, then another, and another. It was all there. Explicit texts, photos, videos, conversations filled with intimate details, things I once thought were only shared between us. But the most gut-wrenching part? She had sent him the same kind of pictures she used to send me. The same words, the same tone, the same teasing messages meant to remind me of what was waiting for me at home. Except now I knew they hadn't been just for me. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears as I scrolled. Hotel reservations, late-night chats, talks about how easy it was to deceive me, how I was always too busy, too trusting, too blind to notice anything. My stomach turned. Sophia collapsed onto the couch, clutching her face as sobs overtook her body. "Daniel, please," she gasped between choked breaths. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I said nothing. "I was lonely," she sobbed harder. "You were never home. I just made a mistake." A mistake. That's what she called it. I stared at her, at the woman I had once believed was my forever. She was shaking, tears pouring down her cheeks, desperately trying to explain. But I wasn't listening. I had seen everything I needed to see. Quietly, methodically, I transferred the messages, photos, and videos to myself. Every piece of evidence, every betrayal, every lie saved. Then, just as calmly as I'd asked her to unlock the phone, I set it down on the table between us. Sophia looked up at me, her eyes soaked with tears, searching my face for something, sympathy, forgiveness, maybe even a chance to explain. She found nothing. When I finally spoke, my voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. I don't need to hear your excuses. I turned away and walked past her, straight to the bedroom. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Clothes, documents, the essentials. Everything I needed to walk out that door and never look back. Sophia stumbled after me, her voice shaking with desperation. Daniel, please don't do this. I ignored her. It didn't mean anything. I love you, she cried. The words rang hollow. I zipped up my suitcase, grabbed my keys, and without another glance at the woman I had once given my heart to, I walked out. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't even slam the door behind me. Because when you're truly done with someone, you don't need to make a scene. You just leave. The night air was crisp as I stepped outside. I didn't turn around. I didn't look back at the house that had once been my home. I just kept walking, gripping the handle of my suitcase, feeling the weight of finality settle in my chest. I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled away from the driveway without a second thought. I wasn't thinking about where I was going. I wasn't thinking about what Sophia was doing at that moment. I was only thinking about one thing. This is over. And I meant it. By the time I reached my temporary apartment, my phone had already lit up with missed calls, Sophia again and again. Desperate messages. Frantic apologies. I didn't answer. I didn't even read them. Instead, I blocked her number. If she had anything to say, she could say it through my lawyer. The next morning, I made the first call of the rest of my life. I need to file for divorce. Immediately. And that was the difference between us. She had acted on impulse, reckless, selfish, unthinking. I acted with purpose. With clarity. There would be no drawn-out conversations. No teary-eyed mediations. No last-ditch attempts to work things out. I wasn't interested in excuses. I wasn't interested in closure. I was only interested in freedom. My lawyer made everything clear. No unnecessary meetings. No emotional manipulation. No endless back-and-forth negotiations. Just a clean break. And for the first time in months, I could breathe. But that didn't mean the pain disappeared overnight. There were mornings I woke up and felt the emptiness beside me in bed. Evenings when I caught myself reaching for my phone to text her, before remembering there was nothing left to say. The weight of betrayal didn't just vanish. It lingered. It sat heavy on my chest. But I had a choice. I could let this break me. I could drown in the bitterness. Let it consume me. Or I could take every ounce of pain and turn it into something useful. So that's what I did. I threw myself into my work with relentless focus. The expansion I had once only planned, I made it happen. Fast. I didn't just move into new cities. I rebranded my entire life. I stopped mourning the past and started chasing the future. Day by day, the weight of what had happened grew lighter. Not because time magically healed anything, but because I made a conscious choice to heal. Months passed, and one morning, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back at me. Stronger, smarter, wealthier. By then, the divorce was almost finalized. It had dragged on longer than it needed to because Sophia wanted more. She thought she was entitled to more than I was willing to give. But she was wrong. And the best part? I felt nothing for her anymore. No anger. No sadness. No love. Just indifference. And indifference, my friends, is the best revenge of all. Months had passed. I had built a new life. One without Sophia. One without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. My business was thriving. My mind was clearer than it had been in years. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Then one night, everything shifted again. It was late, well past dinner. I had just wrapped up a long day of work and was looking forward to a hot shower and some much-needed sleep. The city outside was quiet, wrapped in the stillness of the evening. And then a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But something in me, the same instinct that had told me to check my phone that day, urged me to see who it was. So I opened the door. And there she was, Sophia. She stood on my doorstep under the dim porch light, her eyes red-rimmed and swollen, her face streaked with tears. But that wasn't what shocked me. It was her stomach, round and heavy. Pregnant. For a few seconds, I just stared. My mind went completely blank. Then she broke down completely. Between gasping sobs, she poured out her story. How she had spent months crying herself to sleep, haunted by regret. How she had realized too late that she had thrown away something irreplaceable. I never stopped loving you, Daniel. I was so lost. I let loneliness push me into making stupid choices. I wish I could take everything back. And then, the final blow. Daniel, this is your baby. She said it like a lifeline, as if she truly believed those words would pull me back to her. She wanted another chance. She wanted us to be a family again. She promised that this time she would be faithful, that she had changed. I stood there listening, watching, and for a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I reminded myself, she wasn't here because she loved me. She was here because she needed something. I let her finish, let her pour out every apology, every carefully crafted plea meant to tug at my heartstrings. When she finally stopped, looking up at me with hopeful, tear-filled eyes, I simply nodded. "All right," I said. "Let's get a DNA test." The second those words left my mouth, her entire face changed. The tears stopped. Panic set in. "What?" she stammered, letting out a nervous laugh. "Daniel, how could you even ask me that? You think I would lie about something like this?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her, waiting. She kept talking, her voice rising, her words tumbling over each other in a desperate attempt to regain control. "You should trust me. You always trusted me before. Asking for a test is an insult. Daniel, it's like you never really loved me at all." And right then and there I knew. I saw right through her. If she had nothing to hide, she wouldn't be afraid. If she was certain this child was mine, she would have agreed in an instant. But she didn't. She fought it. I took a deep breath, stepped back, and rested my hand on the door. "If you won't take the test," I said calmly, "I have nothing to say to you." And then, without waiting for another word, I closed the door in her face. I stood by the door for a moment, listening to the silence that followed. No more sobbing. No more pleading. Just stillness. Then, after what felt like a lifetime, I heard her footsteps retreat into the night. I exhaled slowly. I had thought I had seen the worst of Sophia's deceit. I was wrong. Months passed. I continued living my life, focusing on my business, my goals, and the freedom I had earned. I didn't think about her anymore. Not in anger, not in sadness. She was nothing more than a closed chapter. Then, out of nowhere, I was served with a lawsuit. Sophia was taking me to court. Her claim? That I was abandoning my child. This same child she had refused to take a DNA test for. The irony wasn't lost on me. In her version of the story, she was the victim. She told the court that I had cruelly walked out on her when she needed me the most. That I had refused to take responsibility, leaving her alone to suffer. It was a well-crafted sob story.
She cried.
She sniffled. She played her part perfectly, to someone who didn't know the truth. She looked like a woman who had been betrayed, a woman who had loved too deeply and had been abandoned by the man she trusted. There was just one problem. She was lying. What she didn't realize was that I was no longer the man she could manipulate. I had the money. I had the resources. And, most importantly, I had the will to fight back. So, I did what any man in my position would do. I hired the best lawyers in the city. Not just any lawyers. Specialists. Professionals who had built their careers tearing apart manipulative spouses in court. And Sophia? She was just another case for them. The trial was brutal. My legal team wasted no time dismantling her claims. They presented the evidence. Her affair. Her refusal to take the DNA test. Her blatant attempts at extortion. They exposed how she had twisted the truth, manipulating the legal system to make herself look like the victim. Every lie she told was countered with hard facts. Every tearful performance was met with undeniable truth. By the time my lawyers were done, there was no doubt left about who Sophia really was. The courtroom that had once been filled with sympathetic whispers about the abandoned pregnant woman was now filled with hushed murmurs of her deceit. She had no defense. No way to justify her actions. She had come to court hoping to ruin me. But in the end, she had only ruined herself. The judge didn't just rule in my favor. He went a step further. A cease and desist order was issued against her, forbidding her from contacting me in any way. She had lost. Publicly. And there was no coming back from this. As I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I only felt relief. Because now, without a doubt, I knew I had made the right decision. I had walked away from her once, and I would never look back. As I stepped out of the courtroom, I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the past finally slip from my shoulders. Sophia was no longer my problem. She had tried to manipulate me. She had twisted the truth. She had used guilt as a weapon. But in the end, the truth had won. I had no anger left for her. No sadness. No regret. Only indifference. And indifference, my friends, is the best revenge of all. I walked away that day knowing one thing. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them the first time. Life has a way of teaching us lessons the hard way. I ignored the warning signs. I trusted blindly. And I paid the price. But I also learned that walking away is sometimes the greatest power you have. Some people don't come back out of love. They come back out of desperation. And if you let them in, they will destroy you all over again. What do you think? Would you have handled it differently, or do you believe in second chances? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you made it to the end, thank you. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.